Hello and welcome to this Getting Started with Blazin Presenter video. We're going to make a quick overview of just what Blazin Presenter is and how to quickly get around. And we'll do other videos highlighting certain aspects of it, maybe explaining how, elements work and go in and doing special things with those items. But for now, I just want you to get familiar with the interface and just how to maneuver and a couple general settings you might want to do. Right now, we're looking at the Blazin Presenter editor. It's a web-based multimedia editor that's freely available for everyone. This is what you see when you first open it up. You'll see this screen that says, start by adding a slide item to begin. But before we do that, let's figure out what that means. At the top, we have this menu system, file, slides, elements, spots, glyphs, layout, menu editor, help, and preview. File is where you actually, of course, save your project and load your project. So once you start designing, and if you want to save your project, you need to click save, and it will actually download on your computer. It does not save online. Nothing stays online. We never see what you're creating on our site. Everything you do is local to you and your computer. That's something to be very aware of, that everything you do is yours. We never look at anything you do when you create something. It's always yours. It's your content. And that's just how we are. Now, when you start out, again, you go to File. Once you start working, adding items, you want to save, just save, download. You can always load that presentation on any other computer. You can take it with you on a thumb drive, and it will contain all the images and custom fonts and sounds and all, because it bundles it all into one file. So as you upload assets to your presentation, it keeps them together and makes it into a bundle that you can take with you, and you could load it on a Mac, you can load it on a PC, you can load it on Linux. So, you can use any web browser that's modern, for the most part, should work with this. Now, you will see at the bottom, we have a status bar. It currently tells you your projected project size. That's when you start adding images and sounds and all. Your project will grow in size, and it lets you know how big a project you want. Most Blazin Presenter projects are fairly small and lightweight if you use a lot of the inbuilt assets like backgrounds, the sound generator that's built into it, stuff like that. You can have, projects under 200, 300K if it's mainly text and simple things like buttons and shapes and glyphs and fonts. Now, this autosave here, that just means it's saved to your browser. That does not mean it's saved to your local computer. If your browser crashes, you come back to the same editor, your content is auto-saved locally to your browser and will load back up from your browser back into your work area. But again, you need to actually save it as a file. So just remember that. That's your three main buttons is create a new project, save your current project, load an existing project. Now we have the export sections, and there's export online means you're going to export this as a set of files. It's actually like a self-contained website. You have an index file, all the runtimes, all the assets like sounds and images, everything bundled into a zip file that you can unzip and upload to any web host, and you can actually design a mini website, landing pages, you name it. So that's what export online is, and we can go into more of that later in other videos perhaps. Export offline does the exact same thing as export online, but it has to handle things differently because it creates a bundled package with an index.html, all the runtime files and assets. But many browsers will not let you run HTML projects locally because of certain security permissions that the browsers are enforcing on you. So what we've done is found a way to go around that. We actually take some of your assets and turn them into JSON files, and don't want to get too technical, and it makes them, I think, 30% larger overall when you do that, but it allows you to actually run these presentations on any PC just by opening up the zip folder, double-clicking index.html, and it should run it like a presentation right there without requiring any other executable files applications. It should just run it through a web browser. The third one, kind of self-explanatory, I guess, export WordPress. So if you have our Blazin Player WordPress plugin, this creates a specialized export, which means it doesn't include the runtime files. It creates a special package setup, and it provides you one zip file that you upload to your WordPress site using Player as you import it. Now what this does is saves you a ton of space when you start doing multiple presentations on a site or projects. the runtime files are not needed each time you load a presentation. In fact, they're centralized on your WordPress site. So you're saving so much space and bandwidth because once a user loads those runtime files once, they're kind of cached in their browser. So any other presentation they view on your site, they don't have to reload that stuff. And that really makes a huge difference in bandwidth and speed for the user as well. There's a missing one in our SCORM version of the Blazin Presenter. We have a SCORM export button that sits right here. And basically that allows you to take your same projects and presentations that you designed and upload them to a learning management system, a LMS that uses SCORM 1.2. And what that does is you have quizzes, which was an element type, and it can track the progress of the people, if they viewed all your slides, how long they've been on them, how many questions they answered, how many they got right. It's basically, this a learning version of this that you can use to teach, different things, languages, anything, history. But Blazin Presenter is so versatile that you can make anything from learning content to, if you're used to PowerPoints, the layout might look a little familiar with the slides on the left and all that and the spectra on the right. So you make learning content, presentations, digital signage. This stuff will even run on many smart television sets with a web browser. So you can have television sets inside businesses actually running your presentations and set them on loops. Just export it, as online if you want. If you want to host it online and point your web browser to that, or export it offline, stick it on a USB stick and run it directly from the TV if it allows you. You have a look at your TV and what you're allowed to do. All right, so this is the file menu. Slides is kind of self-explanatory. Basically, you can add slides, you can duplicate slides. So if I want to add a new slide, just click Add a Slide. You notice the emptiness now went away. It knows we're working. You can duplicate slides. You can delete slides. You can move slides up and down. I mean, nothing magical, but, it's just there. You can also drag and drop. So all that works as well. You can alt them in one more slide. You got this view here. I'm going to skip ahead real quick in the top and come right back to this. You see this thing that says Layout, the menu. You can actually hide the slide panel while you're working on a slide if you need to. Generally, I keep it open. You also have a timeline. The timeline's really handy because I have certain projects with 50+ slides sometimes in it. And it's easy if you have multiple slides. And let me just add a bunch of slides real quick. I might have a slide way down here, number 10. Well, let's actually do more. All right, number 12. Now you see that this is off the 15, actually, off the screen. You had to scroll. So I didn't want to scroll. I just wanted to go to the last slide for some reason. I can actually drag and drop that slide and move it that way using the timeline below. But I don't normally keep the timeline open, but that's entirely up to you how you want to do your workspace. Clear our screen real quick. So the slides menu allows you to create slides, duplicate slides, delete slides, and move slides. Now we have an export-import slide. Say that you designed a slide, you're real happy with it. Something you might want to use in all your projects. Maybe it's a title screen, business logo screen, whatever. Or it's a quiz you put together that you might want to duplicate between different projects, presentations. That's kind of a universal term we're going to use here interchangeably, projects and presentations. Because a lot of people see the word presentation or presenter and might think, hey, this thing only does presentations, where it can do so much more. We'll get into a little bit of that. And edit, redo, and undo, you can use the keyboard for the same thing. In fact, let's go to elements and let's add a text element real quick. And now, say I don't want to keep what I just did. You hit Command-Z on Mac, Control-Z on PC to undo it. It has a history. I think it keeps the last 15 actions of what you did into your redo and undo. Command-Y redoes it, and Control-Y redoes it on PC, but Command-Y on Mac. All right, so since we're already here, this is the elements menu. This is majority of what you're going to be using to add items to your presentation. And I'll quickly go over each one of these, but I won't demonstrate very many features of them. I just briefly touch upon them. Text, of course, is text. You have animations and different effects and shadows and outlines. Rich text is a little bit more advanced. This is when you need a lot of text on the screen. It actually has a text editor. You can go in and do some kind of markup to it. And again, that's for longer form text. This is nothing that you're typically use all the time. Most of the time, you probably just want to use text in your presentations. The next is audio, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It inserts an audio player into your project, and you can upload audio, MP3s or APAC, which is our custom encrypted audio. something that you might want to look at if you worry about content theft. It's a deterrent of keeping people from just stealing your MP3 files directly from your projects. The next one is button. And of course, that sounds very self-explanatory. A button is kind of cool. It does a lot more than just like simple things here. As we look up here in the inspector, we can force a full screen click. That means when you're doing a preview, let me go ahead and put that. Let's do a preview real quick of this current screen. You notice we're not full screen here, but if I click it, it just went full screen because I told it to try to force the full screen. And typically it works in most browsers. That's the thing though, is nothing works everywhere always with browsers. So we try our best to give you options to make things work whenever possible, universally. You do have other actions. You can add sounds. We'll get into this, but we have a built-in sound effects library with tons of sounds that you can use, or you can upload sounds for your button. Your button also has actions. So not just next slide, previous slide, go to a slide number if you know a slide that you want to take them to, or open a website. So that's the button. Let's go back to our elements menu and go to data. Data's kind of interesting. This is going to come in more with SCORM possibly, but let's look at this. Progress bar is kind of neat. You can get your progress bar set to tell it where it's at within the slide order. Let me add in a few slides. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so we got 4 slides. Now it shows we're at 25% basically because that's where we are. 1 to 4 is 25%. But you don't have to do that. You can manually give it a value if you want. So if you don't want it to calculate where the user is throughout the project, you can tell it manual percentage, and you can give it any percentage between 1 and 100 that you want. I'm trying not to do this too much, but you can animate your slides if you want. You can change your stripe colors. It's kind of cool. You can make it look so plain. Again, though, this is under the data elements subfolder, whereas it lets you calculate where you are automatically within your presentation. So now, after that, we have score. Now, score is going to come in handy when you start having quizzes and you want to keep the user up to date, what their progress is. And of course, you don't have to show all these. You can just give them a current score, and everything is customizable. You can change it in any way you want. So that is your score data element. Now we have our timer. Timer's kind of unique. It serves 2 things. One is just a visual timer if you want to stick it on a page and just have it count down. You might want to give a user 10 minutes to do a assignment on that page. And if so, you can make it go to next slide once the time's out, or go to a slide number, or you can just have it just count down. And when it counts down, it can play a sound when it's complete. So it serves as multiple purposes, force movement throughout a presentation, a quiz, or just say visual timer, how long they've been on the page. All right, so that takes care of the data types. So the next one, we get going here, probably won't have room to put all these on the screen, is hotspot. Now hotspots are kind of cool. Say that you imported an image with multiple areas and you wanted different areas to be clickable. So hotspots right on top of the other elements on the page. And during runtime, you can't see them. They're invisible. They're only opaque pink right now, so you can see them. But you can assign them, actions as well. Go to next slide, go to slide number, previous slide, or open a website. Also, you can try to tip full screen on click, just like the button. So if somebody clicks the hotspot, so let's do that real quick. Let's put hotspot over the scores, and let's tell it to attempt full screen, and it's going to advance the slide too. So let's preview. So I'll right click, preview current slide. So now I'll put it on top of the score. You can't see it, but it's there. And it went to full screen, and it went to the next slide for us. So that's the hotspot element. And that's something I guess I should let you know too. When you right click on your canvas, you can always tell it to preview current slide. So that's kind of cool. If you right click over here, you can tell it to play from start. Or you can always go to preview and choose either one. But that's just a quick tip how to get going with previews as you work on something. Image, image I know is self-explanatory. You can upload an image and stick it on your site. You can add plenty of effects to it. Of course, all these, you can scale images, you can rotate images, same thing for all these other, and then everything is rotatable, editable. You're not stuck with any one thing. And your right-click context button has a lot of choices too, so you can get used to using that as well. Line things center, so you need something center, there you go. I want to reset my transform to make it straight. There's my button. There's my image. All right, the next one is lists. Lists are really cool too. Right now it looks plain, but you can have up to, I think, 15 items per list. Yeah, 15 items per list. This has an editor where you add your items and edit your items. You can move them up and down. You can tell it how the list should look, how should the animation be, if any. Right now it's slide from right. One of my favorites is slide from right impact, which I'm going to do that real quick. Let's preview the slide. And you notice how it comes in and this pounces like it hits something, impacts something. So that's your list items. You can use glyphs, emojis in your list if you want. Kind of cool. All right, like I said, I think we're going to run out of space. Well, Lotties. Lotties are cool too. Lotties is the animation type. All right, so Lotties, you can make them. You have controls too of speed, and if it auto plays on the slide, which you should do. If you just don't want to, you just want to use the static image, turn off autoplay. Now looping, which means when the animation finishes on the Lottie, it will continue playing. But let me show you this real quick. This is a Lottie, and you see how it's going to loop here. Here we go. But you can go to lottiefiles.com and grab lots of free Lottie animations for business and education. It's really a good resource. Particles. Particles are just kind of neat. They add a little spice to things. We got like 3 or so right now, 4 actually, that you can pick from. You can change the speed, the colors, the amount, how many's in it. It is what it is. It's a particle system. You can have multiple particles on a page. We're starting to fill up this page quick. In fact, I think we should go to a new slide for the next one. Quizzes. You got 4 types of quizzes. You got audio match quiz. What you do, you record 4 audios. Now, you might think, when is this useful? Well, if you're teaching somebody a language, it would be very useful. Say that you record the language that they're learning, words in the language that they're learning, and you upload them. And then you type in the answers on the right. In fact, let's go to the quiz editor. So, you just type in the answer here. Like maybe you say the word boot and type in boot, right? And car, then car, and cat, and so on and so forth. And I think you can have up to 6. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see here. I think you can have 6 in here. But you just upload individual MP3s or APAC audios as the sound source. These will shuffle runtime-wise. So the correct answer won't be naturally next to the audio. It will just shuffle these for you each time. And you can control the number correct. You have a lot of things here that you can do. And you can make it when they're finished, it auto advances to the next slide. So once they complete all 4 of these, it will take them to the next slide. And you can disable navigation where the users cannot move back after they've completed something. Or you can make it where they can move back navigation-wise, but you can lock, after completion, you can lock your quizzes so they can't retake them. So it's up to you how you want to do it. See advanced slide on completion. Again, I said we have 4 quiz types. The thing is, you can only have 1 quiz type per page. So if you ever try adding another quiz after see it straight out. So if we delete this audio workbench, the quizzes are available again. And then we have fill in the blank. So open up our editor. And the way this works is you type in a sentence like, and what you do, you put the underline where you want to fill the blank is. Now when they run this, they have a choice of picking the correct one. And you would notate, of course, in the editor, the correct answer is 1 in this case. And it was that you have up to quite a few, I believe, 6. So you have 6 per quiz. And whenever they get these wrong or correct, it's being tracked in the background. So whenever you show their score, in fact, let me show the score on the next slide. Again, I promise I'm trying to keep this quick, but I want you to understand the relations of how everything works here. So we're going to play this slide. I'm going to pick blue. Submit answer. Tells me it's correct. I'm going to the next slide. I got one answer correct out of 1 answer. Score 100%. Again, this is built into all versions of Blazin Presenter. You don't have to have the SCORM version to use the quizzes or the score tracking. What you need the SCORM version for is when you want to submit it inside of LMS to track a student's progress. It knows how to communicate that information to an LMS. But just for everyday use, you can use these freely, just for training purposes or just educational purposes for people. So that was fill in the blank. Let's go to quiz. And then we're going to image quiz. And that's kind of cool too. Say, again, language learning is a good way of doing it, but you can do diagrams. And you upload your image here. And then you have 3 possible choices they can select from. And that's it. That's enough if they got it right or wrong throughout the quiz. Of course, you can make these bigger if you need to make them bigger. I mean, once we get a bigger image, you can scale these things up. All right, so that was image quiz. And the last quiz is multiple choice. And the way this works, you can have up to, I think, 4 possible choices. So you can actually have sections that advance. Once they answer one, it automatically moves to the next section. So you can do that 5 times. I guess I should actually show you what I mean by that. So let's add a section. So that's section 2, of course, but let's preview it. It's going to go to section 1. So that lets you know that you got this correct. That's the next section. And then when you're complete, well, in your last question, it automatically has a completion screen too. It tells you everything you've done. And you can make it auto advance to the next slide, which the slide says I answered 2 questions and got 2 of them right. Again, it counts your scores to track all your quizzes throughout your presentation project. It not just one. So if you have multiple quizzes with multiple sections, it will track it all for you. There's nothing you need to do. It's handled for you. And what we sometimes do when we create educational projects, we'll have a multiple choice quiz, and either we might have rich text on the same screen with, something they need to be learning. And down below, we just might ask them something about the text to see if they actually read it and understand it. So it could be used in that capacity as well. So that's your 4 quizzes. And again, you can only have 1 quiz per page. That's why I can't add another one. So the next one, let's go to the scroller. Basically, is something that you just select horizontally where you want it to be placed on your screen. And it's exactly what it is. It's a scrolling message. And let me move the size up some. Let's make it big. And this is more for digital signage, possibly. But you can use it. We use it too on web content, on websites. Let's speed this thing up. So, make it. So let's preview the screen. So yeah, again, great for digital signage. It will continuously scroll it if you want. You can have multiple messages, one right behind the other one. When one rolls off the screen, that will come back. The next one will follow and loop if you want it to loop. See? Or you can have them instantly behind the other one by unchecking the wait for previous item. You can make it scroll from left to right or right to left. So that's the scroller. Now let's go to shapes. And the shapes are exactly what they sound like. They're built-in shapes. We have a few of them. So it's meant to help you out when you in a bind, need to get something out. You don't have time to go find things, and you just want to have a quick way of providing some kind of content to the user. All right, so that's shapes, and we'll get into glyphs shortly. It shows you what glyphs are, but the shapes are a simpler form. Now the next one is audio stream. This is a lot like the audio player. The only difference is you're using a remote audio off the internet somewhere that's being streamed from. So if you have a MP3 file hosted somewhere that you want to play, you paste in the complete web address of that. Autoplay, if you want it to play since they come into this menu. Let me tell you something about audio and web browsers. Typically, audio doesn't autoplay. So your first slide, if you want autoplaying on your first slide, it usually won't happen on a hosted audio. So, but once they start interactive with your presentation project, on any other slide, audios will autoplay for you. So usually what we try to do is slide 1 is our get started slide. So we might be doing something like put a start button on it, maybe an intro screen, and saying click here to get started. And a good thing about doing that is you can actually force open on full screen, welcome to such and such, or you're about to learn whatever. And once they have clicked this, the browser has considered an interaction. So from there on out, audios will start auto-playing. Just a hint on that. So let's get back to our slide. So that's the audio player. Embed URL. Well, exactly what it is. If you have websites that allow embedding, you can embed them in your presentation. Like we use a company called Paperform, which has forms in it. And when they allow embedding of the web forms. See, a lot of sites don't allow you to embed their content any longer. But if you do have a site that allows you to embed an object or item from it, you can. YouTube. If you're on a YouTube video and click share, and one of the options is embed, if you copy the URL, which is inside that embed code, you can paste it here and actually have YouTube videos appearing inside your presentation. So just something to think about. So let's get to the next slide for this. Forms. This is something that we don't talk much about. It's kind of cool, but we don't go on about it. This is a web form. So open our form builder. This is more for advanced people who understand what web forms are. It's something we use ourselves, so we included it in the public version. You basically can add fields to your form. So you do have a form builder. Let's say I wanted to add it to more fields. I could name this date, and we can have a date picker. And the next one, I can name, what's our other ones? Password, when I do that. All right, so this is our form. Always save it. Now there's our form. If you know anything about how post forms work, you paste where the form data needs to be posted online, whatever you got. You can use N8N if you're into automations and collect your form submissions from inside your project or presentation. Very customizable here. I mean, again, I don't want to get too much into all this right now. So many things in Blazin Presenter, so many options and just cool things you can do. But yes, you can have web forms inside your projects. Very neat, very neat. Next thing, video stream. Okay, we don't have a standard video item. It's on purpose by design because videos can be large and you want to keep your project files size down. So videos do not belong inside projects directly. They belong online and you can stream them. So if you have your MP4 URL, you can paste that right in here and have it autoplay. But once again, browsers are funny. Typically, autoplay will work as long as it's muted. But if you unmute the video, autoplays will not always work. It varies browser to browser. It's not a limitation that you can get around. It's a security thing because back in the day, they were abused by ad companies. So every website you went to opened a video and started playing audio. So unfortunately, our workaround is start it muted and they can unmute it when it starts playing if they want. Or you might just want videos to show. All right, so that's all the elements. So the next is fonts. And we actually have a separate video on this, so I won't go too far into this. But yes, you do have fonts built into Blazin Presenter, so you don't have to worry about having some kind of font. What this font manager does is allow you to upload fonts. And again, I recommend you checking out our video on this. You can upload web fonts. You can find them online. Fontsource.org is an excellent place. If you don't have web fonts and you have TrueType fonts, there's free converters that convert your TrueType fonts into web fonts. We're offering font packs. You can upload an entire package of fonts. We will have one that we're giving away. It's just basically freely available fonts that you can find online. We just bundled some that's very convenient. It had a variety to them. I think it's 15, 20 fonts that you can load up. The good thing about Blazin Presenter is very smart. So if you load them up and use only one of the fonts out of the 20, your exports will not have the other 19 fonts. It only exports what you use in your projects. It's smart. It tries to conserve space. So, don't feel afraid of loading up all the fonts you want to try them out because it won't hurt your end user by doing that if you're not using but one or two. Glyphs. Glyphs are also kind of like emojis. These are standard between browsers on web mobile devices and modern OS desktop devices. They typically always are the same item. So if I click a plane here and tell it to place on the canvas, I got a plane. And when I view this on a Windows machine, this is a Mac right here, or a mobile device, you'll have a plane. The only thing to be aware of, let's go back to our glyphs, is sometimes they look slightly different. They might have more of a 3D look on one than they do on the other, but they're still a plane. So they're like the comet. I don't know if I can find a comet, or I don't know if it's comet or media. Okay. This totally looks different on Windows, but it's still a comet on Windows. It's just, I think it's, instead of going upward, I think the comet on Windows goes downward like that. But it's still a comet. So glyphs are an easy way to add some extra spice to your presentations. You'll see that you got over 2,000 to choose from, and there are also emojis, of course. So you want to just do your standard everyday emojis, place them right on in. We try to make something so it can be both entertaining for adults and children. It's up to you how you use it, of course. Go nuts. Symbols are basically that typical symbols. You'll find them on all these devices as well. The only thing that you see that might confuse you is include risky sequences. And what that means is it's going to give you more options to choose from, but those options are not always available on all devices. Typically they are, but there might be an edge case. It might be a Linux browser or something that just doesn't have those extra set for some reason, or they're running a browser that's a few years old, which shouldn't be doing because of security on the internet, but you can't control your users. But yeah, that is glyphs. Glyphs are basically symbols and emojis, and you can use these throughout your presentation. Layout, I briefly went over this before. You can hide your slides panel and timeline with your layout. Also, when you do hide your slides panel, you can always bring it back without using the layout menu. So that's your layout menu editor. And this is really cool. It's more powerful than people realize, and it's going to be a video unto itself, I believe. In fact, let me do new. Next, we're going to cover the menu editor. Also, really, it's called the global menu editor, but to keep it short in the menu system up top, we shorten it to menu editor, but you often see it referred to as the global menu editor. This is kind of a very important aspect. It transforms your presentation into an application in a way. There's a few things I'm going to touch on right before I start showing you how the menu editor works. I want you to understand the navigation system within Blazin Presenter. By default, your navigation system is set to free navigation, and you can see that underneath global. Global controls what it sounds like your global settings for the entire application. So free navigation means you can freely navigate forward and backwards with your arrow keys and spacebar between the slides. You also have ability to show playback controls, and this is on by default. So let me briefly show you what I'm talking about. This is the default navigation for a slide. It's showing the playback controls. I'm going to hit the right arrow. I'll go forward. I'm going to hit a right arrow again. I go forward. I hit the left arrow. I go backwards. I hit the space bar. I go forward. This is free navigation. Often this is what you want. Let the user go where they want with ease. But there's times you don't want the user to go where they want. It might be a linear progression that you want them to see, and you don't want them just to jump around. Or you might have a quiz type environment, and you don't want them to freely navigate through the quizzes. We have a lot of availability to control how they navigate your projects. So again, we're still looking at the inspector, the global settings, and we're going to remove the show playback controls. That's going to be gone. And we're going to move the navigation type, or the navigation rule, from free navigation to locked manual navigation. And I'll explain to you what that means. But let's quickly visit the one we didn't choose. You have forward only. Forward means once they see a slide, they cannot go back to that slide. And you might want that if you're doing some kind of quizzes. But typically, I think even for quizzes, locked navigation makes the most sense, because you can make quizzes auto-advance upon completion to the next slide. So they're not locked navigation. You have that ability to keep them from, going back to wherever and taking a quiz again, even though you can lock quizzes, but that's a different topic altogether. So right now we have, let's start our presentation, a manual navigation. I can't use my arrow keys to get around. I can't use the space bar, but I do have a button, and this button has an action tied to it. An action is next slide when it's clicked. Quite a few items in Blazin Presenter can have actions tied to them. You can have images, you'd have hotspots. When they click these, you can tell it to go to a slide number, or go to the previous slide or the next slide. In this case, it's the next slide when I click the button. Now I'm on a slide that has no way of navigating after it. The reason it jumped just then is we have something called slide timing that you'd add to individual slides if you want. So the rocket slide, I had 4 seconds, which is awfully quick. But you can have slides that auto advance after so many seconds if you want. And then they don't need navigation. You might want them, give them 30 seconds to read something short and take them to something else, or 12 seconds, whatever you think's applicable to the amount of text that you're showing them or want them to digest. So yes, you can do slide timing, but there's something else you can do. You can go to global, and you do have another feature. So when you're using slide timing, you can use a countdown bar, and you can also use a label if you want. So now I'm going to go back to start to show you that we do not have anything different on this slide. But the next slide we will, because it is using slide timing. Now you see the bar at the bottom is counting down, and it lets you know how long you got on that slide. You don't have to enable that, but if you do want to enable that for time slides, you can. It's underneath global. You set your bar color, and if you want a label or not, and you control the label color where the position is of that label. So now we know we can lock the navigation, that we can provide them forward-only navigation, or we can give them free navigation. Then we can have slides with time navigation, which works with all 3 modes of locked, forward-only, or free navigation, where the time will automatically advance them if they don't do it themselves, or if it's locked, they can advance themselves. Hopefully I have not made this overly complicated. Here's where the global menu system comes in. We're going to go to the menu editor, and we're going to enable the global menu, which is already enabled in this case. And we're going to add an item. We're going to add a slide link. And slide link means it's linking to a slide. It's not going to a slide number. It's actually linking to a slide, and it's a difference. When you link to the slide, slides have an internal code that you can't see, but Blazin Presenter knows that slide's code. And why is this important? Because right now the slide I'm linked to is slide 2, which is named story. But I might change that slide's position. I might rename that slide. So what happens when you do that? If the menu system did not know that slide's true identity, which is something you can't change. So as you work on your projects, you might move that slide around, but you don't have to worry about coming back into the menu system and updating that link saying, okay, where did I move that to? What slide number is that now? That's taken care of for you. It's automatically taken care of. So we're going to name this slide item space. You already seen it. We're going to name it space. Okay. Go back into the menu. And we're going to add a submenu. And we're going to name the submenu websites. And again, this is, submenus can have slide links, they can have actions. That's your only 2 real items right now that gives navigation to a user, is a slide link or action. And the action, I'm going to add action. And first of all, I'm going to tell it to be underneath a submenu websites, because actions are basically hyperlinks that you have a user click it in the menu and it takes them to a website. And when you give it a website, you typically want to leave the open link to new window enabled, because if you don't, if they click that menu item, it would open that website in place of the presentation. Your project's going to disappear. They're going to go to that site, and that's it. You will lose them from inside your presentation. Now, you might want that. There is times you might want to say, click here to sign up for something or to join something. And your presentation or project was only to get them to do that. So if they're clicking that link, it's done its job, you're fine with them taking over the presentation with the site you're sending them to. If not, leave it open in a window, and they won't lose the presentation. So let's look at the menu system now that I added it. So we started the presentation again. You notice a small tray over here. That is your global menu, okay? And now we have a submenu that has, the website I added to it. But it could be slide links too in the submenu. You can have many submenus and many root menu items. We're going to close this and show you something else kind of neat. On your slides, individual slides. You can control how your global menu appears. So in this one, I want to force it to show. That way the user doesn't have to click to open it. Okay, there's another setting we need to look at real quick in the menu. You see this thing that says auto hide? If you uncheck this, the menu won't automatically hide. But I got it checked, so it's going to hide in 5 seconds. I'll show you what I mean. I have it forced to show menu on this slide, and auto hide is enabled. Notice the menu shows, and 5 seconds later, it's going to slide away to the side. Why do you want to do this? You might want to just say, hey, I got a menu. I'm here if you need me. And then they notice there's a little tab that they can click and expand the menu. Okay? Now, if you don't want it to auto hide, this is a global setting. You can remove auto hide from the menu portion. And when you preview that slide, they got to dismiss that menu or move over to another slide. The thing is, the next slide we're going to go to doesn't have a menu at all. The reason that doesn't have a menu is we got force hide menu on this slide. So you can keep the menu from showing it all on slides. And this is great if you have a section of content you do not want the user to skip. And this works best under force manual navigation. This means they can't use the controls like the arrow keys, the spacebar to leave that slide. So if you have a quiz, you can make it where they don't have a menu on that slide. And the only way they can get out of that is to complete the quiz and have the quiz set to auto advance to the next slide. So that is a very powerful system that you won't see in many presentation software or HTML authoring software when it comes to doing this kind of multimedia authoring. So let's go back to our main menu. Again, our global menu in this case. I'm going to tell it not to be color. I'm going to change it to linear gradient. And I want you... Now the menu looks a little bit more professional, a little gradient to it instead of solid. Again, it's not hiding because auto hide has been disabled and I have forced on. Now, I can leave auto hide disabled, but I should probably remove forced if I don't want that menu just sticking out the whole time. And there's the menu tab, and there's your choice submenu, and there's your main items. Hopefully this gives you an understanding of how powerful you can make your projects here. You can control where they are, give them options to go to certain sections. Maybe if you're doing a quiz, educational section in this case, you have chapters here. And they can click to go to a chapter, but once they enter the chapter, it hides the menu until they complete the chapter. So, and then they get a score at the end by using the score element that we have. And if you use SCORM, you can actually do this in your SCORM projects where they can read about the assignment or the lesson and give them menus, and at the end it submits their score to the learning management system. But this don't have to be used only for quizzes and learning management systems. This can be used for presentations or product demos, kiosks. If you have a kiosk, you can load this up and just let users navigate with the menu system on the kiosk. Again, Blazin Presenter is very versatile, and a lot of these things just are powerful, but are just not noticed unless you have time to go through and check them out. And I know there's a lot of stuff here, a lot of settings. We try to make it point and click easy, but provide you all the control we possibly can. You can dig into these things. Many times you don't have to touch any of it. Sometimes you just need to modify a few things. But overall, it's up to you what you want to do with your navigation, but you see that you have free navigation, forward navigation, lock navigation, and a global menu navigation system that you can use in all your presentations and projects. The next one, self-explanatory help system. We have tried to do as much as possible to give you some explanations of how things work. Like the audio, we explained to you the different audio types, how you can convert your MP3s to APAC, how you can use the ZZFX generator to generate custom sounds. Export explains the different export options. We've been through that. Font, which is the font menu manager. We've been through that. Elements, again, all these. Now, tokens and shortcuts. This is something we really hadn't talked about. Shortcuts is just key shortcuts. It lets you know Command Z, Command Y, Control Z, Control Y. Also, you can do duplications in place. So if you have an element and you wanted to duplicate it, Control D or Command D, it duplicates it in place, moves it over just a little bit. Whereas you can do a copy with Control C and a paste, and you can copy and paste items too, but Command and Control D is usually pretty handy. All right, back under the help menu is tokens. This is kind of interesting. So you can embed any of these in text. So let me see if I can copy this, or actually let's do time. I'm going to copy that token. I'm just going to say element, text, double click. And now, because that token is there, and this can be great for digital signage too. So when we preview this, it automatically gives you the time. And you can, do dates and a few other things within the token system. They all work the same way. Let's go back into the help tokens. See, you can do the slide percentage, how many slides remaining out of the deck is really, really cool. Project title, current slide title, and that's all derived from here. You have a global slide presentation name. Then each slide can be named. You notice it says slide 1. It could be renamed start, right? So now you see start over here. Kind of helps you track these things. But if we had the token slide title, now these are available for standard text. They do not work in rich text that I'm aware of. All right, so when we preview this, see it tells you the name of the slide and the time. But I'm sorry, we add so many features, it's hard to keep up sometimes. I'm pretty sure, but let's see. Actually, they do work in rich text. So yeah, the token system is very versatile. You can use it a lot of different places throughout the presentation manager. Well, that's basically it. I mean, the next one is preview from start and from the current slide that you're working on. And like I said before, you can just right click and go play from start. Or you can be on the canvas and say preview current slide. And, we got many other things to talk about, like the global settings. It looks overwhelming at first, but it's not. It's really handy. And then the slides panel, when you're working on a slide, you might want to do things with specific slides and have timing and all that. But for now, just know that Blazin Presenter is very versatile. You can do many things with what you create. You can use it as web content, via directly uploading it directly as online exports, or using it inside your WordPress sites with Blazin Player, using it offline with the export for offline, so you can actually run the presentations without being connected to the internet. It also doesn't require to stream audio or video anywhere. And that means you can use presentations, just like you would a PowerPoint, kind of. And then you have SCORM if you have a LMS learning system and you need to do the score tracking and all for student management. So that's, unfortunately, not exactly a quick, but as fast as I could go, overview of Blazin Presenter just to know how to get around the system. And we'll do more videos going more in depth of some of these other settings and features that you can use.